Welcome back. You're watching Talk Oxford. I'm Eve Ahmed, and here with me in the studio are Nigel Holt and John Mayo of Kirtlington Morris. Now for that topic that I mentioned that I know is close to my guests' hearts, and that's the closure of many village and town pubs, Tide pubs, and the rise of the microbrewery. Is this all part of a trend for more locally sourced produce? And I understand your local in Bletchington is up for sale, Nigel. How do you feel about that?
We don't feel very good about it at all, actually. It's a typical village pub of the moment, which is basically always struggled. In my experience of 25 years in that village, the pub has been up and down and down and up and down again and maybe up again. I couldn't tell you how many landlords it's had, but everybody who goes in there full of enthusiasm, full of energy, full of ideas. A year later, they are losing that enthusiasm. They've used all their ideas. They're lacking in energy. Another year later, they're probably on their way out, and along comes another landlord and goes through the same cycle. It's a pretty poor state of affairs.
And is this part of a trend, do you think?
Yes.
I think it's definitely a part of a trend. We're lucky in our village that we've had the same landlord for over 10 years, 13 years maybe. Before that, there's a success, another similar change. I think a lot of it is down to the Tide system, where the pubs are forced to buy their brew.
It's the pubcos. Pubcos are the bad boys at the moment.
And the two main ones are both massively in debt, and they're shedding pubs to try and recover some of their debt, and it's very sad.
But at the same time, there's the rise of the microbrewery. So how does that fit into what you're describing?
One is the retail outlet, if you like, which has to be requires a massive amount of work on the part of a landlord. I don't think any landlord works less than 70, 80, 90 hours a week. You really have got to.
You've got to love it.
You know, if you're going to make the place work, you've just got to be so full of energy and enthusiasm. It's crazy. And landlords burn out. I think that you could describe it as that. Meanwhile, the microbreweries, of course, are producing the product. It's kind of a slightly different situation in the chain. And yes, there are more and more microbreweries building up because people are quite interested in interesting beer.
Yeah.
And microbrewers are the ones who produce that.
And I think it goes along with the sort of the renaissance of British English cooking, doesn't it? You know, where we all love our local produce now, and probably new beers or local beers are part of that.
Beer used to be a working man's drink, and now it's been elevated to something that generates revenue. And
yes, it's elevated indeed to the point where in some restaurants on the menu it'll tell you what beer you should drink with each course, rather than what wine.
You're talking to the wrong person. I'm a champagne person.
Well,
so
champagne.
You can't drink beer with everything, can you?
The marketers would say yes. Seriously, they would.
The ability to brew small amounts of beer allow you to experiment greatly with the recipes and the ingredients, and you can brew small batches that have fruit and other kind of flavours that would complement certain types of food as well.
Yeah, strong, weak, dry, sweet, fruit flavoured maybe, but you know there is. I think people would have us believe that there is a beer to go with virtually anything you can drink.
And I have to say, our village has a beer festival in just over a week's time, on the 13th of June, where you can sample 30 different types of beer.
What village is that, John?
That'll be Fringford.
Fringford.
Fringford, just the other side of Bicester, towards Buckingham.
Yeah. Are you sort of born and bred Oxfordshire boys?
No.
No, I'm not. I was born and bred Herefordshire boy.
Okay.
Spent some time in London and eventually ended up in Oxfordshire.
All right. And what is it about this county that you like, John?
For me,
it sounds like you're quite embedded in your local community.
Well, we
are.
You're really
involved.
I moved here from London as well when I got married, just over 20 odd years ago. And for us, it was a commute north for my wife and a commute south for me. So it was in the middle for us.
And and it's a nice thing about living in a village, being part of a community and having that pub and, you know, the festivals,
Yeah,
etc.
I think so. It's very much, we are a very strong community in our village, and people will put themselves out for other people and put these events on. We have a lot of local events that happen throughout the year, bonfire nights, beer festival, and other festivals and events too that are very strongly upheld in the village.
What's the solution then to the closure of pubs, as you mentioned, Nigel?
Well, one of the most often...
Are you the saviour of the pub trade?
well, I do my best.
We both do our best to keep them
We
going.
go to the... Yes, but this,
I didn't quite mean in that way.
Use it or lose it is the slogan. Use it or lose it.
Yeah, isn't that what they say about our brains?
Yes, that too. It applies to all sorts of organs. But in the meantime, yes, use it or lose it. But if the pub you're talking about has suddenly closed and is still, I'm talking about the Black's Head in Letchington now, closed at Christmas, put up for sale. There was a community asset notice served, which means that there's a 3-month time limit during which the community can make an offer for the pub. No such offer was organised or forthcoming, and so the pub is now and still on the open market 6 months later.
Didn't you try to sort of, you know, get some...
If only I
feeling
had
together.
the time and the energy myself, which I haven't.
It's a thankless task, I think.
A very thankless task. Any pub landlord will tell you that it's such hard work. If you're going to be a success, you've got to work very, very hard indeed.
I guess it's like people who start their own restaurants. You hear about them working day and night and
a lot of pubs
not much money.
Need a restaurant associated with them to bring in extra revenue and footfall.
That's where the food is.
Is it because of
That's where the
the
money is.
smoking ban, do you think, partly?
No, I don't think so.
It's the drinking and driving thing has
Of
clearly
course, yeah.
affected country pubs.
Yeah.
But there's also supermarkets selling cheap beer and wine. There's a number of factors that are against a good country pub these days. If you've got a good landlord serving really good beers, who's got the right attitude and probably running a good restaurant on the side, because that's where the money is, you can still have a really, really good country pub come restaurant.
Okay.
But it's very difficult times for the little village pub.
Right. Well, moving on to maybe slightly related, I don't know, but it's about money, because we're moving on to talk about fair pay now, because Steve Hilton, the former chief strategist to David Cameron, says we've got a situation here in the UK where people work incredibly hard, as you've been describing, Nigel, yet cannot earn enough money to live on. He says we need a proper living wage funded by cuts to corporation tax being used as an incentive to businesses. So is this an idea whose time has come, John?
Well, I'm self-employed, and I welcome any cut in corporation tax as a result, but I don't actually employ anyone, so I couldn't use that money to fund a place. I do think it's a problem. I've got 2 teenage children, or in their early 20s children, and they struggle, or they see their future struggling to have what we enjoy. Our own houses and properties.
As
like
baby
that.
boomers.
As baby boomers. And I think there does seem to be a division now where we're getting the super rich and the super poor as a result. Having a minimum wage, I think, can affect the market, because what's the incentive to pay any more than that?
Yeah. Well, what was he saying? He gives some
increase
figures.
it to a living wage, but that will depend on whereabouts in the country you live.
Yes, I don't know whether we're talking about a minimum wage or a minimum living wage, which kind of is a different thing, really.
Or what's it called? It's a living wage as well.
A living wage is
which
probably
is quite
more
a bit
than
higher.
exactly
But
than
Steve
minimum
Hilton
wage.
points out that in Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, they've raised their minimum wage to $15 an hour. Don't know what that would be equate to in the UK.
We don't know how it reflects in the UK, because the cost of living is probably completely different.
Okay, yeah. And some commentators are saying if the Conservatives really are the party for the hard-working, as they say they are, then they should follow suit.
It's an idea. It's going to get discussed a lot more than it is here, but it may come into being. Who knows? I mean, it sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's the sort of thing
propaganda.
it could be propaganda, or it could be a good idea which will need an awful lot of work to get it into action before the possible benefits are realised.
I guess maybe in a way, I don't know, living in villages, you probably don't see this great divide that people say is happening more and more in Britain, you know, with the haves and the have-nots. I imagine in a village it's more of a, you know, people tend to be all in the same boat.
There's a premium for living in a village. You pay the price in transport links.
Indeed.
Commuting, you'll always have to generally travel to go to a job. I do see a change in our village, for example. I work from home, and a lot of other people similarly are bringing their businesses home now with better communications. We've just at last had fibre broadband installed after what seems like an indeterminable wait, which is helping people to do that more. But you know, you still need to be near a town or a city to get these local jobs.
Yeah. I mean, you were talking about divisions within a village. I mean, there are no divisions as such, but of course, every village has big houses and little houses, and clearly, the more well-off people have the bigger houses, and the less maybe living in small houses or indeed council houses. Most villages have still got a few what are now ex-council houses, but nonetheless cheaper housing.
Well, maybe at this point we could draw attention to that badge you're wearing. No, I was going to say brooch, not brooch.
I don't know whether
badge.
Can we have a close-up of this badge here? Anybody? Oh, here comes the cameraman, and it's that camera.
What is it?
This badge is for prostate cancer. Prostate Cancer UK. Apart from being quite a neat little badge, it's quite symbolic. Well done. It's a good design. I'm wearing it because I have prostate cancer. But it's okay. It was diagnosed 2009, and it was all a big shock. But I'm one of the fortunate ones who actually, or relatively fortunate ones, in that mine is not aggressive. So with any luck, I'll be living with it for the rest of my life, which may be an average lifespan, if not longer. But I just wanted to draw attention to this because it's been a recent promotion for Prostate Cancer UK to basically just raise awareness, and that's why I'm talking about it now. Awareness of prostate cancer. Men over 50 should get checked, because if it's caught early, even if it is aggressive, it can be arrested and sorted out early, and it's worth doing. Men are a bit embarrassed about it. Absolutely no need to be, because the PSA test, prostate-specific antigen test, is a very simple blood test. You go to your doctor, say, I'd like a blood test, please, and with any luck, they'll take a blood test. Off it goes. 4 days later, your result comes back.
And do you find that people ask you?
Yes, it is. It's such a neat badge that it really does work. People, like yourself, people say, "Oh, that's a cute little badge. What's that about?" And then they're a little bit taken aback, like you were, when I said, "Well, actually, it's prostate cancer, and I wear it because I've got it." But it's about raising awareness, and I can't emphasize enough that men who are, getting a little older, shall we say, some say over 50, which these days is not very old, but men who are in that age band should think quite seriously about getting their PSA checked, maybe just on an annual basis, so that it can be kept an eye on. And if it's found the PSA level is found to be a little bit high, maybe you get another check done and see whether it's rising or just floating up and down, which is what normally happens.
Thank you for, being so open about that.
Well, that's okay. It's information which I think should be shared.
Yeah,
There's quite a lot of support organisations around prostate cancer.
Well,
But just talking about it is the best thing.
Well, maybe we could talk about it in a couple of minutes because
Okay.
we have got another break coming up
Okay.
now. When we come back, we'll be also talking about faith because more than 30 years ago, 40% of the British population identified themselves as CUV or Anglican, but now this figure's dropped to apparently just 17%. And according to former Archbishop Lord Carey, the church is a generation away from extinction. So should we be more worried? We want to hear your views too, so do get in touch with us by email at talk@that'soxford.com and via Twitter @that'soxfordtv, and you can find us on Facebook too, and we shall see you